Vanderbilt still has a shot at the playoffs, believe it or not. What are the scenarios that they need to make it in the field?
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcasting network out there. Joining me to discuss everything, making his weekly appearance, it's Mike Huseman. Mike, thanks for joining me, man. But the playoff odds are there. Vanderbilt's ranked 14th in the new playoff rankings. What do you notice? What is it about the playoff ratings? I'm gonna throw up the board here. What are your initial reactions to these rankings, and what shot does Vanderbilt have to get into the field?
So initially, my thoughts are pretty positive. I don't have a lot to gripe with so far. I don't think many people do. If you're a Miami fan, they're going to feel a little hard up that they're rated below Notre Dame. Rightly so. They did beat them, in the head-to-head matchup. In terms of Vandy, I saw a very interesting tweet today by a man named Alex Gould. I have no connection with this man, know nothing about him, but he basically tweeted out a scenario, what Vandy needs to happen to make the CFP, and it was they have to beat Kentucky and Tennessee, and then you need a loss from 4 of the following 5 teams: Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, BYU, and Utah. I don't know that that's accurate in terms of those teams losing certainly helps Vandy. I lean towards if they finish at 10-2, you might just be in. That might be a done deal, but there are scenarios where you could get left out at 10 wins. I think it's unlikely for a Big Ten or an SEC team, but it could happen.
Yeah, if Texas wins out, they beat Georgia, and Georgia, if that's their only additional loss, and they're sitting at 10-2, you got to think that Texas is going to be that 5th team in. If Bama holds serve and they beat Oklahoma, which needs to happen this weekend, I think they're out of the way. Of course, Ole Miss is going to make it. I don't think there's a scenario unless they just completely
they'd have to lose 2.
Yeah, they'd have to lose these next 2 SEC games, which I don't see that happening with Florida's. Just I think they've kind of quit. Mississippi State, they're dangerous, but
they are.
Ole Miss is significantly more talented than they are. Yeah. I think the best
scenario, I think, and it's the only scenario out there where a potential 3-loss team could make it. What if Texas makes the SEC title game, but then loses in the SEC title game? What would that be? They would be 10-3 at that point. Would they get in over a 10-2 Vandy? It's a very interesting question if your 3rd loss is in the SEC title game.
Yeah, I think so. I think you could see that scenario because they won the head-to-head matchup. I think the committee would favor that, even though the records are worse, and that's a hard pill to swallow. You finish the season 10-2, probably. I think it's your best. I'm pretty sure if I remember, this would be the first time in program history that Vanderbilt would win 10 games if this were the scenario that plays out. So this would be the best season in Vanderbilt history. It'd be a hard pill to swallow for them not to make a playoff. But again, it's that extra game for Texas. If that is the scenario, again, with the head-to-head win, you had the same regular season record. And I don't see them punishing them for that. They might get the lowest seed, but that would be hard.
And the precedent from last year was in both the Big Ten and SEC, it did not hurt you. With Penn State, Texas both lost the conference. Now, they were both obvious to make the playoff anyway.
Yeah.
This is a little different scenario.
Yeah, this would be sort of unprecedented in that case. But yeah, that would be something to consider. But for Vanderbilt fans, you need to root for the way I see
you need Oklahoma to lose. That's one of the biggest things you need to happen.
Yeah, you need A&M and Bama and Georgia to just go ahead and win out. Ole Miss to go ahead and just win out. Those are 4 SEC teams right there that'll get in. You need somehow the Big 12 to get just one bid, whether it's Texas Tech, BYU, or Utah. You need that to happen. The ACC needs to continue to be a mess, and one team gets in. Right now, it favors Georgia Tech and Miami. I think with the 4 teams that are in contention, I think Georgia Tech probably has the best chance. I think they could beat Miami head-to-head. And then if Oregon or Notre Dame, I think Oregon probably has a better chance of losing one of their remaining games than Notre Dame, because Oregon still has USC on the schedule, who's ranked 17th currently.
And Washington, Washington runs the ball pretty well. That's not an easy last game of the year.
Right. But Jed Fish could be distracted because he's a candidate for the Florida job.
Florida.
So that's something that, when you look at that scenario, like, I don't know how it's going to play out. Like, it's crazy because there's still 3 weeks left and there's a lot that can happen. Vanderbilt obviously has to go perfect in that scenario for any of this to matter. But it's going to be crazy. And if Texas and Oklahoma lose this weekend, for Vandy fans, that's just what needs to happen. Just need to root for Georgia, need to root for Alabama. I know that seems counterproductive, but for the sake of the playoff, and I'm not saying I'm going to root against Texas now and forever. Yeah. But as far as playoff stakes go, like, you need those teams out of your way. So the teams that are at the top now, you want them to stay at the top and beat out the rest of the teams in the middle with you. Yeah, and just kind of create chaos in that, like, 9 through 16 range. You go ahead and get some of your auto bids out of the way, and Vandy's just kind of fighting for that 12th spot. I mean, they're going to get in and they're going to play probably whoever's sitting there at number 5, which is, if things hold out, will probably be Georgia or Ole Miss, like, depending on how they want to match it up. And
I do wonder, and this is a thought I had last year as well, and it didn't come to fruition, that last playoff, or the last unveil, when they're actually doing the seedings, do they purposely modify it so you don't have those conference matchups round 1? It's something I wonder about when it comes down to it.
They might. I mean, I think the way things fell last year, I think they were able to do that behind the scenes and not really. But, like, the way the rankings are going to fall, like, I think they're going to have to do some obvious tinkering, because the top 4 now are just the top 4. It's not top 4 conference champions. It's just, you're in the top 4. You're in the top 4. So, like, Indiana or Ohio State, depending on who wins that title game, which presumably it's going to be Ohio State, but you've learned with Indiana, don't presume anything with Mendoza. But
and we might go into a conference championship weekend already knowing the top 4. The 4 that are there now, if they keep winning, how they do in that conference title game, it's only going to matter for 1, 2, or 3, and 4. You're going to already have the bye going into it, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, because that'll be Texas A&M's first loss. That would be actually, well, I think maybe Bama and Georgia would switch if Bama got the extra loss at number 4.
That's tough. That's another one where the precedent of last year comes into play, where they beat Georgia. Do you punish them for losing that extra game? It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, that would be so. A couple scenarios could play that precedent into.
And if Texas Tech keeps winning and they win the conference title, would they jump to that 4th spot? I think that's more of a leap, but not out of play.
Yeah, I could see that scenario where they leapfrog 2 spots if Bama loses, and you just slide Bama down. You can't jump Georgia over that slot because they lost head-to-head and they didn't participate in the title game. And then you get a conference champion in that 4th spot. I wouldn't hate that.
I will say, I think if Vandy makes it into one of those final spots, Vandy going to Lubbock in round 1 is a very likely scenario.
Yeah, that would be a fun matchup. I think.
Yeah, and you could have got on off season. I had a very good Texas Tech guy on in the summer. You you should have him on here in that.
Yeah, absolutely. If that scenario plays out, no doubt about it. So it's a lot of twists, a lot of turns, but it's got to come down to the fact that you need some help, and you obviously need to win, and that help is having mass amounts of chaos. Like Vandy needs to win out and hope everything else is chaos. And at the end of the day, when the dust settles, if it's chaos, you'll probably end up with 5 SEC teams. Let's just be real about that. And that'll be to the chagrin of everybody around. But if there is chaos, SEC and then Big Ten get the benefit of the doubt. So I'm very excited about it. Just the fact that we're having this conversation this late in the season for Vanderbilt is absolutely incredible because next year it may not be like this. And Mike, you and I will continue this on through the offseason and just kind of talk about Vandy's path to making sure this is a sustainable thing, which I've talked about also in previous episodes, like how sustainable this culture could be. We're going to talk about that, what that looks like.
And I saw you talking about that. Solo. I think it is sustainable. Getting another quarterback will be key to that, but I think we're closer to the beginning of the Clark Lea era than the end of it, I think, which is good.
Yeah, no doubt. And I feel like he's just getting started. So speaking of the Clark Lea era, there's some odds makers that think the Clark Lea era is going to end in Vanderbilt and start somewhere else. Where that is, we'll talk about it next. But first, I want to talk to you about FanDuel because, man, there's a lot going on. 49 straight days of football or something like that. The NBA is back, so there's a lot of things you can get in on, especially midweek. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and really just kind of everybody. So if the thing with FanDuel, Mike, that I like is the live betting, because I can roll into a game. The best way that I've seen to bet an NBA game or even to watch an NBA game is wait till it hits like the fourth quarter or maybe right before. And that's where the real action starts, because it's kind of like a heavyweight fight where they're just kind of softly jabbing each other until like the 12th round. And then they actually start punching. Like, it's like one of those type things, especially in November and December early on, pre-All-Star break. It's just them just kind of feeling their way through the schedule. So the live bets, the same game parlays, all that stuff is phenomenal. So, but you need to take advantage of it, man. And it just makes everything way, way more exciting. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. And thank you, everybody out there, for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcasting network in all the land. And joining me is Mike Huseman, Off-Season After Dark. If you need another listen, go follow that. And also Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, if you want to stay in-house. And also just do both right after the show. It'll benefit you. You'll get some really, really good information. So, Mike, we were talking about playoff odds and Vandy scenarios, and it's so twisty and turny. Like, you could come up with a new scenario, seems like every day. All right. But we also talked about Clark Lea's era is just starting. Is it going to keep going at Vanderbilt, or the odds have gone, I guess, would you say gone up? He was plus 1,000 the last time we talked about this. Now he's plus 500 to LSU.
Yes, that would be the odds going up. It's the counter to, it's like golf. Like, you're getting better if your score is going down.
Yeah,
yes.
There you go. Yeah. So the odds are increasing for Clark Lea to go to LSU. I don't know with what they're doing over there. Like, they're trying to refire. And I'm honestly, I haven't read up on it a lot, but it just seems like a bungled mess over there at LSU.
That's absolutely true.
I don't think he would go to that because he's in such a. I think he's finally got things settled the way he wants at Vanderbilt, right?
Yes, I said it a week or two ago when I was on here with you. I think the only scenario you potentially would lose him to would be if Marcus Freeman goes to the NFL and Clark Lea would go to Notre Dame. I don't think he leaves for another conference job or a Big Ten job.
No, I don't think so either. Like, I think Notre Dame would be the only thing. And I don't think the NFL is going to come calling for Clark Lea just yet. So I think we're safe there. But, yeah.
For Freeman, you mean?
Well, I was going to say Clark Lea too, but yeah.
Okay.
Freeman, I don't know. Like, it just depends on the situation. Like, I could see, I don't know, some NFL teams, because NFL is such a retread league. Like, I could see Cliff Kingsbury getting another opportunity before Marcus Freeman because he's been there, and maybe the second go around might be a little bit better for Cliff. And Cliff's been in the NFL for a long time now, and maybe, you know, he's kind of bounced around. It's not like he's gone college to NFL, back to college, and whatever. But it'll be interesting to kind of see how things shake out with Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame. He is going to be a hot commodity. I'm sure he's told a lot of people no already. But the odds had Nick Saban as the number one guy for LSU, the latest odds at plus 250.
To me, that shows that the odds makers don't really have a bead on who the good candidates are, which I had mentioned on, I was talking with a guy who does a radio station in State College, PA. So he's a Penn State guy. And that right now, that would be the last job I would pick to make a hire, because there's so much uncertainty around it. We don't know the names that they're like. We've heard John Summerall, but are they going to want to hire a G5 guy in state? And Summerall's getting traction at Auburn.
I think Summerall's going to end up at Auburn.
There's a good chance, I think. Yeah. I think it's him or Durkin probably.
I think if I'm Auburn, I pull the trigger on Summerall. I just think, I don't know. I'm still unsure about Durkin. I would like to see, if I'm Auburn, I would like to see Durkin go somewhere else and just kind of redo his reputation a little bit and then come back, because they need to get this right.
They do. Yes.
And falling in love with the interim is not always the best answer.
It is certainly not. No, I mean, you look at a month ago, most people were saying Bobby Petrino was going to get the Arkansas job. That's not going to happen. They haven't won any games. He's not going to get that job.
They've been terrible, actually. Like, they've been awful.
But at LSU, but I mean, they've made no progress on defense at Arkansas. No. Obviously, he's calling the offense. He's not a defensive guy, but now that he's the boss, you're responsible for everybody. At LSU, they'll back to them. We're hearing, obviously, Clark Lea is, higher up on the odds. Certainly, if Nick Saban would want the job, they'd hire him. I don't know that he wants to work anymore. It wouldn't shock me if Joe Brady is the last man standing. Like, he's a guy that we're hearing his name, and is it going to come to a scenario where none of those other legit coaches want it, so he'll take it? You wouldn't think LSU would come down to that. I don't know.
Does Joe Brady want to go back to college too? Like, part of the reason he jumped to the NFL is because he doesn't like recruiting. So does he jump back, or is this hire going to come from complete left field? Somebody that's not in the odds list.
A guy I had wondered about, and their season so far hasn't been great, but former LSU assistant, D coordinator on the best team they had, Dave Aranda. Baylor's going to go to a bowl game again. They've won 5. They'll win one of their last 3. But if they finish strong, is Dave Aranda going to be a guy in the mix there? I don't know.
With the way things
that
are
left
going,
field guy you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, the way things are going, if they have to go to left field, they might go somebody that's familiar with the terrain there.
Willie Fritz has experience coaching in Louisiana. Houston was god awful last year. They're very good this year, and Willie's won everywhere he's been at. I wouldn't hate that hire.
No, that would be a good hire. I mean, he's 64 years old. So you wonder about the age, but I mean, again, it's if he gives you 5 to 8 good years, that's good, and you can just kind of scout out somebody down the pipeline. But like Dan Lanning's on the list. He's not leaving Oregon for LSU.
I don't think he's going to,
especially that mess.
No, I think Dan Lanning would maybe leave for Georgia or Alabama. I don't think he would leave for any other job.
I think he turned down Alabama the first time they offered him.
He may have, yeah.
I think
certainly talked.
I think Georgia's the only job, or the NFL.
Yeah,
I know he flirted with the NFL, but I don't think there was anything real there. But Jed Fish is somebody that's he's gonna be in the SEC somewhere.
He could be a Florida guy. He's a Florida alumni. Mm-hmm. A guy, we've talked. Not everybody's keen on the hire. You and I both like him. One thing I had jumped the gun on a couple weeks ago, and you would kind of pull the reins back on me a little bit, and I'm leaning towards your way of thinking now. Eli Drinkwitz might stay at Mizzou now.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard he's the odds-on favorite.
For a while, I thought he's going to go to Florida. He'd go to Auburn. He is, and I talked about that, on the radio with that guy. That certainly could happen, but I think there's a better chance he stays at Mizzou now than I would have said a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a great situation there, and it's something to think about. Like it's flattering, but like I don't think he's really itching to leave. I think Penn State's going to have to really break the bank to get him, and they could do a whole lot worse than Eli Drinkwitz there. But
absolutely.
I've heard Ryan Silverfield to Arkansas. I know Clark Lea's not really up for that job. Clark Lea's odds have decreased for Florida slightly. He was plus 1,000. Now he's plus 2,500. So he's going backwards there. But again, this coaching search is going to be twisty, turvy, windy. Like that's the kind of the theme of tonight's show. Might as well title it "Long and Winding Road," right?
Yeah. Another guy we're hearing who's popped up the last couple days for LSU especially, but also Penn State and Florida little, is Jeff Brom at Louisville. Mm-hmm. Not coincidentally with that, we're now hearing Louisville's prepared to give him a pretty good raise. So,
and I think he would take that. So, so just, it's something that's interesting to keep your eyes on, because I think they'll make a move right after the end of the regular season on Black Sunday. These jobs, I think, will be filled, and there'll be some interesting movement there. And Brent Key is saying all the right things, but again, money talks, and Georgia Tech can't. No, I don't think they can match. But speaking of odds, Diego Pavia, his odds weren't as high as I thought they were going to be, but he's in the top 4 or 5 for New York. Should he be invited? We're not necessarily talking about odds, but should he be in the field to go to New York for the Heisman ceremony? We'll talk about that next. Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping, dedicated support make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. So visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, wrap it up here with Mike. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. Again, thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network number 1. It's because of you guys. It's because of everybody out there listening, and the everydayers that make all of this possible. So, Mike, before we get out of here, we need to have a brief discussion, because I had this discussion on Monday kind of with myself, and people thought I was crazy. People have always thought I was crazy anytime I bring up Heisman and Diego Pavia in the same sentence. But I think he should be. I mean, we know that Mendoza's probably the front runner, right? Like I think that he's starting to separate. Him and Ty Simpson, I think, are separating as the top 2, and I think Mendoza will win.
The odds would tell us Mendoza and Julian Sayin now are the two that are separating. Sayin's rising a ton.
Sayin's rising. Simpson kind of fell back a little bit. Okay, so
Yep.
Julian's saying anyway. I mean, regardless of who's number 2, number 3, I think it's Mendoza's to lose at this point. But the conversation also, who should be in the other chairs? Because
are we inviting 4 or are we inviting 5? Because they've done both a decent amount, and for me, that's what it comes down to with Pavia right now. Are we inviting 4 or are we inviting 5? Because I would have him 5th right now.
Yeah, I think they should invite 5. Like, I think there's 5 legitimate candidates. Obviously, the odds don't favor 3, 4, and 5 right now.
No,
especially 5, but. I think it says a lot. The messaging says a lot for them to go through the experience of being in New York, going through this whole process, this whole Heisman finalist process. And, I think for Vanderbilt right now, that's an honor in and of itself. You have a guy representing your school sitting in one of those chairs. You're going to get interviewed. You're going to get whatever. Clark Lea's going to be there. You're going to see the V. You're going to see all of that. And I think even if he doesn't win it, I'm okay with him just sitting there as the 5th guy, because just that process alone, you can turn on the tape and go, hey, hey, quarterbacks, hey, Jared, Curtis, or whoever it is you're calling, tune in. Diego's there. He's probably not going to win it, but he's there. Like, we got him there. We were in the Birmingham Bowl last year. We got him in the Heisman race the next year. Like, that's something that you can use as a recruiting tool big time.
Who would have thought, a couple of years ago when we were starting the whole NIL portal journey, you would have Pavia, going with Jerry Kill to Vandy, Kurt Signetti go to Indiana, and then Mendoza transfer. And you're having Indiana and Vanderbilt quarterbacks heavily in the mix for a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
Nobody would have thought that.
And you can make legitimate cases for all 5 of those guys, but like those 2 schools especially. But here's the thing. Like, I think Indiana has a lot of money. They just don't know how to use it. And they've never cared about football, except for the 1 year with Antoine Randall. And then Vanderbilt's sitting on a freaking gold mine. They just know how to use it. They don't care to use. They've never cared to use it, and they've always wanted to do the integrity thing, and they just didn't care about athletics, and they didn't. It's like, okay, whatever, just field a team. It's fine. Just whatever. Just don't get us in trouble. And coaches have been hamstrung by that, and I think they've finally seen the value in doing all that, in investing in the program and investing in NIL and recruiting and facilities and building a staff and giving Clark Lea everything he needs, because they see, okay, oh, well, Diego is doing this, that, and the other. Okay, like, we can do this. And also it took basketball being aggressive in doing so to also get them to see the value in it. So to me, you put that stamp on there as like, hey, you have a Heisman finalist. I don't care if you're 2nd or 5th. You didn't win it, but you're in New York. That's all that. If you don't win it, that's the second thing that matters. Did you make it to New York? Did New York invite you? And that's a big deal, because they don't just throw out invites like it's Oprah.
No,
you get an invite, you get an invite, right?
Yeah.
They make the decision to go to 5 if there's 5 legitimate people. And
you're going to have to be within so many points. It goes by the final vote, point tabulation. So
yeah, and I think I think if people vote hard enough, I think they could get him within that threshold, because without him, if they go 10-2 and they make the field, I don't know if the Heisman will be decided before the field is determined. I think the Heisman comes after the field. I don't know if the voting stops. I don't know the whole process or the timeline. But I think
voting finishes the next Friday.
Okay. So if Vanderbilt makes the field of 12, it's going to be hard to keep Pavia out of New York because of the impact, because what he'll have to do, obviously, to beat Kentucky at home, that's not anything to write home about. But you go to Neyland Stadium and beat Tennessee, that is something to write home about. And that is something these voters will pay attention to. I don't know. It's not going to be enough to get him to the number one spot. And I realize that. That went away with the Texas loss. Him winning it went away with the Texas loss. But I think the stats have kept him alive. This last Auburn game has kept him alive, and going 10-2 will put him in the mix, probably with a long shot to win. But if he gets invited to New York, I still firmly believe for where Vanderbilt is and where they were 2 years ago, that is a massive, massive milestone. And more than anyone can say. So, but is there like a dark horse?
Yeah, and looking at the – oh.
Go ahead. I think we're –
is Marcel Reed a dark horse anymore? I would say. I think is number 4 in the odds right now. After Mendoza, Sayin, Simpson, Reed, Pavia, I don't think there's another candidate with a realistic chance of winning it. Dante Moore would maybe be a guy that could be a finalist. I don't think anyone else has a realistic chance to win it. No one at Ole Miss does. No one at Georgia does.
Yeah.
Texas Tech battled injuries with their good guys. And Jeremiah Love could maybe be a finalist. His numbers at running back are outstanding. He's not going to win it. He could be a finalist.
Yeah, and that's something that I think they'll have to contend with, and the voters, and this will be part of the campaign too. Like, this is where it gets interesting. So, but anyway, Mike, that's all we have time.
We will not. We don't say this a lot. We will not have a finalist this year that's not on a playoff team. They will all be playoff team guys in New York.
Yeah, because if Pavia's a finalist, Vanderbilt will have to. That's part of that's part of what's required of him to be in the mix. So, Mike, thanks for joining me as always. In the coming weeks, we're going to preview matchups with Kentucky, Tennessee. On the next episode, I'm going to look at kind of what Vanderbilt needs to do down the stretch to ensure that they finish 10-2 and they ensure themselves a spot. Or a chance at a spot, because some of it's out of their control in the college football playoff. So lots of football left. If you're Vanderbilt and you're watching football this weekend, and Texas fans, Oklahoma fans, BYU fans, Utah fans, and Notre Dame fans, earmuffs. But it's going to be Go Dogs, Roll Tide, and then whoever those other teams are playing. You just need some people to clear it out of your
Utah
way.
Utah plays Baylor. BYU plays TCU.
Okay, so boom, bear down, whatever TCU says. I think they I know they do this. I don't know what they say, but anyway, all those teams just clear
with frogs. I don't know.
Horn. It's this. I know it's this. The hand motion, but anyway, clear it out. Clear the path so the Commodores can come. So the Commodores can come through. All right. Until next time, anchor down. Peace.